You're listening to Zoom the TBT with Charge and Hayner.
Hey guys, Charge and Hayner at Zoom the TBT, and we're continuing our regional previews. Charge, we are going to West Virginia, and unlike many people, we're actually happy to be going to West Virginia. How hype are you about traveling to Charleston?
Yeah, no, I can't wait. I mean, short drive from Northeast Ohio, so can't wait to be there. I mean, some of the friends of the pod are going to be there, including some of our guests that we're going to have on tonight. So, excited to catch up with some of those folks in the small knit TBT community. And the thing that's going to be fantastic, there's going to be some really, really good basketball played in Charleston. We mentioned early on that this looked like one of the best regionals, one of the deeper regionals. And as we dig into our second regional preview, you'll see why we're excited about Charleston.
We have a pretty interesting little pod. If you look back at this as the full bracket, we're doing this first pod. We're starting the lower left, the 4-13, 5-12. And we're already looking to redeem themselves after a pretty tough year last year, a pretty tough loss last year. And sorry, the cat had to get on the table. They always want to be in a podcast. This is how this works. And then playing the Buccaneers, a very game 12 seed, which make it very difficult for them to have a win. So that'll be a really interesting game. And a new team, HBCU, against the lifestyle. I mean, it is a lifestyle. Armored athletes, always a factor. Vince, what interests you most about that 5-12 game, just briefly?
The 5-12 game, to me, it's really about the bounce back for War Ready. And poor Matt, we've talked about this pod after pod, unfortunately had a really tough first year last year when they were fully rebranded as War Ready. I'm watching Twitter right now. I don't know, obviously, if he's announced it yet, but ready to sign another player any second now as we're taping. So I think, excitement around the Auburn team, the great fan base they have, and, a lot of pressure on War Ready to deliver and see if they can overcome some of the hiccups from last year. But it's going to be no easy matchup. The Buccaneers got a lot of experience. I think they're going to be a real cohesive team that's going to put up a great fight. And this one here, I think, is going to be probably one of the better games of the first round of West Virginia.
Yeah, so again, in that 4-13 matchup, you have a new team, HBCU United, a really great concept, getting a lot of historically Black colleges in there, trying to get a really interesting team together against mainstays, friends of the pod, and always a deep factor to go deep in the tournament, Armored Athlete, which brings us to our guest tonight. We have the GM, AJ Mahar of Armored Athlete on time. AJ, what's going on, man?
Nothing, man. Happy to be here.
Always a pleasure to have you here. So we'll go ahead and briefly talk about the War Ready Buccaneers game. We're excited about that. We'll get into the meat of your game. So AJ, I'll start with you. Obviously, if you're lucky enough to get past HBCU, this would be no easy second round game. Is there something about this matchup of War Ready and the Buccaneers that you're looking forward to seeing as a spectator?
Yeah, I'm just excited to see two alumni teams battle it out for some great competition. And I think both teams are actually really well-rounded, and it's cool to see War Ready have so many of the Final Four guys back on the roster playing in this event. And with that said, I think the Buccaneers are going to be a pretty dangerous 12 seed, just like 12 seeds typically are in the NCAA tournament as well. So I don't think it's going to be an easy walkthrough for War Ready by any means. It should be a nice battle.
Yeah, and I love the fact that both of these teams are just really deep with the alumni culture there. So you see Auburn, everybody but one player. Isaiah's been with Tampa 2020 for a lot of years, so good to see them bring Isaiah Williams back with them. And then obviously the Buccaneers, a good chunk of change with that East Tennessee State. So I think that's intriguing. I think both these rosters, as we mentioned on the first page, going to be real cohesive. War Ready's going to be looking for that rebound, and anything can happen in the 5-12. So stay tuned for that.
Do you guys agree with me though? Like, really, I don't think any team in the entire tournament has any more pressure on them to win a game than War Ready after last year, because they came in really hyped. They're a favor of the pod. They still are, by the way. We love Matt. We love what they're doing there. So it's a really great branding. They have a really good roster. I fully expect them to win this game, by the way. But is there a team with more pressure in the TBT than War Ready? I don't think there is.
Heard that. So two ends of the spectrum. Two ends of the spectrum. War Ready crashed and burned last year. Has a lot to prove. Heard that. Exceeded everyone's expectations. And I don't want to talk too much because obviously we have that kind of pod that we'll be discussing a little later, but exceeded everyone's expectations last year. So the bar is going to be really high for them. And they've got some tough matchups, which we'll discuss a little bit. But those are the two teams I think have the most to prove in 2021.
I really like about this matchup too. It's like you mentioned and both AJ and you mentioned the whole concept of the alumni fan bases, because like we don't want this tournament to become completely alumni based, but I really do love the concept that these are not just alumni teams, but teams that have stood relatively close to their being full alumni teams. Like you can see, they might have a handful of other guys, but the grad transfers, as we're calling it, but they have mostly their own players, which helps standard of play. It helps people to know what they're running, because usually colleges have a shared system. So this will be a pretty cohesive team, I think, both ways. I'm really looking at this to be a very high level NCAA game, like literally a 5-12 as you would see in March. This could be a really, really fun matchup. So if you go from that spectrum, though, we go to our guest matchup, which is, I guess, the Armored Athlete HBCU game. And AJ, obviously, as this gets to be more and more alumni based, there is the pro con of being an alumni team versus, in your case, being an alumni team. You guys have created one of the enduring brands in TBT now. Like, you guys have a fan base, you guys have followers, you guys really have made yourselves a lifestyle, as you guys say. And the reality is, like, how have you been able to do that in the last few years? Like, what has been intrinsic to making Armored Athlete such a mainstay in the TBT?
Yeah, I just think it's like the people that are around me with the program or with the lifestyle, with Armored Athlete. Everybody's just so bought in and so consistent with everything that we do. It's a daily grind. Everybody's doing their part, and I think that really helps us, one, feed off each other's energy, but just like that consistency, right, day after day, that kind of makes us keep achieving what we've set out to do.
Yeah, so AJ, I know you're fine with it, because we talked about a little bit about this before, not necessarily being in the spotlight, but this team is so ridiculously good on paper right now. I can't believe no one's talking about Armored Athlete leading up into TBT 2021.
You think no one's talking about them?
And if they're talking, I'm not hearing. I mean, we're hearing about all the other teams, and we're hearing about Bayheims, we're hearing about Sideline, we're hearing about Golden Eagles, of course. I think some people know Armored Athlete, but I think the greater population does not know how good Armored Athlete is. So, do you find that to be advantage or disadvantage going into the tournament?
I would say we're used to it at this point. It feels like there's never anything. People talking about Armored Athlete like we're like a favorite to win the event, even though we have the 5th most wins all time. Our history of our players going on to compete at higher levels after, and our coaching staff, everything that we do is, I think that we're setting ourselves up to actually make a run and win this thing here in the near future. So it is amazing to me that we still don't get the love that a lot of these other teams do, but I'm totally fine with it. It just really just lights a bigger fire under me to keep going and pushing harder to try to prove everybody wrong and make them realize that Armored Athlete's for real.
Well, it's interesting too, because I think it's actually a really good point what Vince raised about no one. I guess he's right. No one is talking about Armored Athlete, but I look at it as, in this case, is like it's the case of excellence consistently being just taken for granted. The reality is, like, I don't think anybody doesn't think Armored Athlete's an upper tier contender. It's taken as a matter of known fact. Armored Athlete comes to play every year and will always contend and will always fight and will always put up things. So it's almost as if the brand has become so ingrained with having good teams, which obviously with this roster you've continued to have. It's not so much that you're being discounted. It's almost as if we know how good that's going to be. Is that a different kind of pressure, like having to live up to a legacy you've created?
No, that's a great point. I think you might be onto something with that. Me personally, though, like, I honestly don't feel any pressure, and I know that's kind of wild. I just know that we prepare the way that we're supposed to, and I know how set up we are to make a run, and I'm just really excited about this group that we have this year. I think it's the names and players are one thing, right? But as far as like a whole team being one, I'm really, really excited about this group. I don't think we've had a team that's been better put together in our 7 years than this year's team is.
Let me stick on your roster just a second more, and we've got our graphics by TBT Thoughts. And do you guys have Jamario Jones? I believe he's still listed on the website, but I don't see him here.
Jamario's coming.
This is a guy who
Yeah, he's
if
not on
people
there.
understand how good Jamario Jones is. This guy is an agitator. I mean, I used to love rooting against him in the G League. I mean, he would get the Chargers players so riled up. I mean, just full of fire. I mean, this is a guy kind of compared to like a Ja'Cory Williams, just plays super mean, just like all over the course. So some of the other guys I speak for themselves, but Jamario Jones, I think, is going to bring an element to your team that probably haven't seen in a lot of teams so far this year.
I'll tell you one thing that's been really, really interesting and like eye-opening for me. I thought I knew how good Jamario was, but every time I was recruiting a player, or we were recruiting a player through this process, when they're asking, who do you have? Every time Jamario's name came up, guys are just like, you got to be kidding me. Like this guy is an animal. I'm really excited to see him in this event. I think he's going to thrive and be awesome. I'm really, really excited to have him with us. And his style is like, I would almost compare him to like the TBT version or the new age Dennis Rodman to some extent, the way that he plays and he battles. And Rodman's one of my all-time favorite players, so I'm thrilled to have him on our side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, fair assessment there. Love him, and can't wait to see what he brings to TBT.
Can't let it go without saying, though, as the big Memphis guy, obviously getting Adonis Thomas makes me very happy, because obviously it's nice to root for the Memphis guys. So obviously I already am a big Armored Athlete fan. We're fans of many teams in this bracket, so there's a lot of teams we really love in this. That's if we're going to have a rooting interest, and obviously that's one reason for me to even be more of an Armored fan. Let's talk a little bit about your opponent. Obviously that's a very credible opponent you're facing in HBCU United. So how do you plan to prepare for that roster and your opponent?
Yeah, I mean, we're really going to just worry about what we've got to worry about on our end from an offensive standpoint and a defensive standpoint. I love our staff, but as far as HBCU, they're a young group, they're a young crew, really long, really athletic. I know a few of these guys. I've talked to a few of them in the past, or we've crossed paths one way or another, and they're just getting started. So even though their levels of basketball aren't as high as some of the guys on our roster may be, I think the near future we'll be seeing some of them at some of those levels as well. So I just know that they have a lot of young, what I would call not established players yet that haven't reached the peak of where their career is going to go. So they're definitely an interesting team, and we have no clue what the heck they're going to run or how they're going to play or anything along those lines. So again, it's just we have to worry about what we're going to do and hope the rest takes care of itself.
Yeah, the bottom line, you got to watch Phil Carr. You can't stop him. You can only hope to contain him. So let's put it out there now. The Charge guy is going to lead the team in scoring and give you guys a challenge, AJ.
Let's see it.
All right. Yeah. Hey, just one more quick comment on Armored Athletes roster before we get to the picks, but it is just insane when you look at some of these guards, Roberson, Armand, XRM. I mean, these are NBA guys we're talking about. QJ Peterson's been ridiculous overseas. Tariq Owens was on a two-way. Malcolm Miller, no one's talking about. Cody Clark, performed awesome for you guys last year. So, hopefully that's the one takeaway that you guys really appreciate what Armored Athlete's going to bring this year. And I think not only this is a team that easily gets past this round of 4 versus 13, but definitely a contender. Look forward to seeing it take the court in West Virginia.
Absolutely. And talking about that, let's get to the picks real quick. So we've got a pretty chalky group here. Again, thanks to Matt, Brandon, and Alan for helping us with our picks this year. And obviously, I think, AJ, you have to like that. I mean, that seems pretty good. 5 for 5.
Hopefully it plays out that way.
Yeah, I really think it's interesting, though, that like Buccaneers will be credible. I don't think Brandon's going really out of his way to pick the Buccaneers. And again, that pressure on War Ready really makes that a really intriguing game. Well, anyway, that's what we're thinking. We think Armored's going to roll. We're really looking forward to that Armored, War Ready, possibly Buccaneers matchup. AJ, any closing thoughts about what you're looking forward to in Charleston?
Just being with our group, spending time together. We're all over the country and all over the world. Just the opportunity to spend time with each other and actually all be under one roof together and just do what we've put so much effort into over the last year and in many cases the last 7 years. So just to get together and reconnect and have the opportunity to compete and do what we all love.
Yeah, and so we don't want to forget about the kind of the key person on this Armored Athlete team. So can you confirm Jess is back for TBT 2021?
Jess is back, aka the Flex Queen. She's
There we go.
back for year 7.
Yeah,
There we
that's
go.
gonna be awesome. I mean, this is I mean, handpicked for me and Hayner going down to West Virginia. You're gonna see some awesome people, some awesome basketball. So we really appreciate you jumping on, AJ. And I guess we're how many days away? You probably got that in your head more than I do.
I don't know.
16?
Starts the 17th. 17th. So whatever number of days, we don't do math well here. So
We're not a
18
math
days.
group. We're an architect and a facilities guy. We're not a math group. AJ, thanks for swinging by.
18.
Okay.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Looking forward to seeing you in West Virginia.
See you soon. It's
All right,
been
AJ.
Zoom the TBT with AJ Mahar of Armored Athlete signing off.
Hope you enjoyed listening to Zoom the TBT with Charge and Hayner. Subscribe to YouTube, follow on Twitter, and give us your money.